Forms of government based on the number of rulers. Governments can be divided according to different characteristics. The most convenient and perhaps one of the oldest forms of division is based on the number of people who rule. The names of these forms have Greek roots. The reason is clear. The roots of the humanity somehow go back to ancient Greece. Of course, it's better to say that it dates back to the golden age of Athens, about 2,500 years ago, and the time of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Plato laid the foundation for this division, at least as far as we know. The first form is a situation where no one rules or has no government. The name of this state is Anarchy. The Greek origin of this word is made up of two parts. The first part, an, means without, and the second part, archia, means ruler. So anarchy means without a ruler. Since human civilization was formed, anarchy has never happened, but many consider 17th century Europe and the 30 Years' War as an example of anarchy. Many consider anarchy equivalent to chaos, but its proponents believe that the government is inherently evil and should be opposed. In reality, anarchy is mostly seen in the form of philosophical theory and social movement as anarchism. The most common use of anarchy is to describe the international political system. If the government is in the hands of only one person, it's called autocracy. This word is also made of two parts. Autos means self and kratia means ruling. So autocracy means one who rules alone. Generally, when we talk about a dictatorship, we mean such a government. But dictatorial rule may also be impersonal, which is not a concern of our discussion here. The ruler's title or how he or she came to power can be different. Historically, kings have had the role of autocrats. But autocracy can take other forms. For example, a revolution may lead one person to come to power who no longer share power with others. And after that, power is transferred to another person. It's even possible for a person to come to power in a democratic system, but after gaining power, he eliminates all rivals and takes power alone. Although the appearance of these governments may be different, they are all in a way autocracies. Another situation is that there is a limited number of rulers and it's called oligarchy. This word is also made up of two parts. Oligos meaning few and the same archia which was also in anarchy meaning ruler. So the word oligarchy means a government ruled by only a few. Today it can be said that no country is officially governed by the oligarchic method. In ancient Greece, the city-state of Sparta was ruled by an oligarchy. Oligarchy is more of a negative concept. In contrast, there is the concept of aristocracy. This word is also a two-part word. Aristos means the best and kratia means the rule. Although there is officially no aristocracy, the founders of the United States sought to establish an aristocracy. Therefore, the first years of the founding of the United States may be considered an aristocracy. The electoral college system in the US election that still exists is rooted in this view. According to this division, the last form is the rule of all or democracy. Democracy is a title we have all heard of, and is the most common and most desirable form of government today. Almost all governments try to present themselves as democratic. Even North Korea's official name is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. But democracy is not a new concept. The word also has Greek roots and is made up of two parts. The first part is demos, which means the people, and the second part is kratia, which means government. Democracy is not a novel concept and existed in ancient Greece. The city-state of Athens was democratically governed for more than 100 years, about 2,500 years ago. Of course, Athenian democracy is very different from the democracy we know today, but it was the first human experience. Democracy can be divided into different types, but the main division divides democracy into two states or categories. The first form of democracy is direct democracy. In a direct democracy, citizens or voters participate in all decision-making. In this way, the voters directly approve the policies and laws by participating in the elections and expressing their opinions. It was the same in Athenian democracy. Nowadays, there are very few examples of direct democracy. We can say that Switzerland is the only country that is currently governed by direct democracy. Even Switzerland, in practice, is a semi-direct democracy and not a direct democracy. Representative democracy is another form of democracy that these days exists. In this form of government, the people participate in an election in which they elect people among themselves to take power on their behalf. For example, elected individuals enter the parliament and pass policies and laws for the whole society. Almost all democracies worldwide are representative democracies, and parliaments are the most explicit symbol of representative democracy. Probably you are less familiar with oligarchy and anarchy. The reason is obvious. As I mentioned before, nowadays there is no anarchist or oligarchic government. Honestly, anarchy should not be considered a form of government at all because it's a state of no government. That's why it can be left out of our consideration. Now, considering these three models, we conclude that it's not the case that we have three separate and independent forms of government. In the real world, we have a spectrum of autocracy at one end and full democracy at the other. Now, the forms of countries' governments is on the spectrum where it is autocratic but also have oligarchic characteristics. For example, Saudi Arabia, a country that is ruled individually and the king is in power. But even in this autocracy, the House of Saud as a small part of society also has power and interference. So we are not facing an absolute autocracy in this case. Another example is the United States of America. Everyone considers this country a democracy. But in this system, individuals must be members of one of the two major parties, the Democratic and the Republican, to achieve high positions. Apart from this, the influence of the rich, for example, in the American political structure, is enormous. These two features slightly remind us of oligarchy. So if we want to mark the United States' place on this chart, it will be somewhere between democracy and oligarchy. Having given these two examples, I wanted to show that in reality the forms of government is somehow complex. Well, this was a brief explanation of the forms of government based on the number of rulers. If you find this video informative, please like it, and if you want to watch similar videos, please subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or any topics that you want me to make a video about, please leave a comment. See you in the next video.